Welcome to Whispers of the Web, where the hidden gems of the web come to life. Join us as we unravel the most fascinating tales, secrets, and discussions from across the web. Every whisper has a story. If you enjoy our journey through the whispers of the web, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the intrigue. Story number 1. A woman asked me to buy her groceries. I accepted, and then I ran away from her. I was at a train station and had to pick up my sister at the airport, already slightly late. I had 20 minutes before catching the train to go to her. The next one would have been 40 minutes later. While waiting, I was approached by a woman, about 25 to 30 years old, with her little daughter. She asked me to buy some groceries for her so that she and her daughter could eat. I tried to give her money instead, but she insisted I accompanied her instead. So I agreed, but I explicitly told her that it couldn't take more than 15 minutes because of the train. She accepted. I regretted it almost instantly. She took a cart and started basically ransacking the supermarket, taking in, apart from lots of the normal groceries, pans, pots, glasses, several 4-packs of Red Bulls, lot of junk food, and so on. I roughly counted the expenses, and after a good 10 minutes it was amounting already almost to €200. Furthermore, at the 13 minutes count, she was still taking her time with no end in sight. Stressed out at the thought of missing my train, having a public confrontation, and being impolite to someone in difficulty, I just ran away. I don't know whether I should, but months later I still think and feel bad about it. It's commendable that you wanted to help someone in need. It shows your kind and empathetic nature. It sounds like the situation may have been heading towards a scam, or at the very least, was taking advantage of your generosity. Offering the money directly was a reasonable approach. It allowed you to extend help without being put in a situation where you were uncomfortable or potentially being taken advantage of. When she declined the money and insisted on your physical presence, it changed into a strange territory. Feeling bad about leaving the way you did is a natural response, especially when you set out with the intention to help. If you're approached for help again, you can offer what you're comfortable with, like a specific amount of money or purchasing a few essential items. And if the person insists on more than you're comfortable with, it's okay to respectfully decline. Story number 2. I lied about my favorite food for a couple of years. In the beginning of 6th grade in my history class, the teacher was doing icebreakers and asked us what our favorite food was. I wanted to seem fancy and crap, so I said ravioli since it looked and sounded fancy. I'm not even sure if ravioli is considered fancy food, but that started the ball of this unnecessary lie. Every time someone asked me what my favorite food or dish was, I'd constantly say it's ravioli, and I stopped doing that after I realized how cringy and unnecessary that was to lie about that. The worst part is, I never had ravioli before, and I still haven't. The first time I ever heard of ravioli was from a SpongeBob meme where Plankton told SpongeBob, "Ravioli, ravioli, give me the formioli." Edit. For everyone saying that I should try ravioli, I'll for sure try it by next week and give an update about it. And my current favorite food is either Tibbs or pho. I highly recommend Tibbs if you never tried it. Edit 2. I just had beef ravioli, and it was delicious. It was beef ravioli with creamy Italian. I loved the ravioli, but I'm neutral about the creamy Italian though. I wouldn't say it's my all-time favorite, but it was definitely good. What a silly thing to lie about. I'm glad this poster has had an opportunity to try ravioli. Personally, my favorite food is tortellini, not because it's fancy or anything like that though. Story number 3. I forgot about my 1-month-old sister and left her in a supermarket. So I have a younger sister. There is a 15-year age gap between us. I have to confess that when she was 1 month old I was babysitting her, and I took her to the shops in her pram. I was getting my shopping and I completely forgot my sister existed, and I somehow went home without her. Bear in mind I live about 20 minutes away, and I was home for about 15 minutes before I seen one of her baby grows and remembered I had left her. I rang the store and told them, and it turned out she was still left in the bread aisle. No one else had noticed she was left alone. Then I had to run the 20 minutes back to the shop, so she was basically left all alone for an hour. It's something I always think about, and I feel awful. Anything could have happened. It was a mistake, so no harm done. And you clearly deeply regret this situation. Luckily nothing ever happened to her, and at least it wasn't in a car. I remember when I was a kid I used to try and hide in the clothing racks to hope that my parents were too distracted and would forget us. I didn't realize they could hear us laughing in there though. Does anyone else have any silly stories to help this poster feel better about this mistake? Story number 4. My mom took $50 from me, so I lied and told her I didn't know where her $200 went. Me and my mother have an up and down relationship. Sometimes we'll be best friends, the next she'll wish I was never born. A burden to her. It was my payday. As soon as I got home, she demanded $50 from me. I had just given her 152 days prior. I knew what it was for. She wanted to gamble, or she was giving it to my stepdad so he could gamble. No matter how many times I told her no, she would get louder and threaten me more, so I just gave in. She wasn't gonna pay me back. She never does. But what could I do? A few days later, me and her were talking in her room. When she got up to leave, I saw it, $200 dropping from her wallet. When I saw it, I didn't know what got a hold of me. This felt like my way of getting revenge, being able to pay myself back kinda. I quickly pocketed the money and went on my way. A few hours later, my mom called in a panic asking if I'd seen $200 around the house. I told her no straight to her face and hung up. To this day she still doesn't know. I hated stealing and lying to my mother's face, but I also still feel it was deserved after years of her taking from me. I've been living with this guilt for about a month now, and it eats me alive every day and keeps me awake at night. I'm sorry, Mom. Edit. Man, every single one of y'all's comments make me smile and tear up. I wish I can thank you all personally for all the advice I've been given and the feedback. Even though I still feel guilty, I feel a lot better knowing I'm somewhat reasonable for my doings. For those with similar stories to share, I also feel deeply for you. You've all helped me a lot. Thank you so much. I love to see when a poster is able to find comfort in the comments. Knowing they are not alone and having their experience validated is invaluable. Story number 5. Waiter forgot part of my order then abandoned me, so I just walked out. I decided to try a cool ramen place in downtown Spokane for lunch. Ordered a bunch of food with the intent of trying a few things out, and then taking the leftovers to my hotel room for dinner. Waiter was super cold, and I felt a little judged when I ordered. Yes, it's enough for 2 meals, I get it. Food comes out, I'm missing 2 appetizers, and he just never comes back. There's a 2 top next to me, getting checked on frequently. And even they notice that I've been abandoned because every time their waitress comes back, they glance over at me, all alone. Also, the ramen wasn't even good, and I didn't want to finish it. I probably sat there for at least 30 minutes after receiving my food, with no service, before I just got up and left. Always felt a little guilty, and I still wonder what he thought when he finally realized I was gone. Oh well? If I received such terrible service, I would start with complaining to the manager, even if it meant I had to get up and find someone to talk to. I absolutely would have not tipped. I wouldn't just walk out like that, but at the same time, I don't blame this poster one bit. What would you guys have done? Have any of you ever walked out on a check before? Was there a good reason? Story number 6. It was me that moved your garden gnome every night. When I, 42 male, was in my 20s, I worked in a nightclub and used to walk home with a couple of coworkers pretty much every night at roughly 3 a.m. On the way home there was this one garden that was always perfect. It had a little pond with a gnome. One of those that has a fishing pole, you know the type, right? Well, one night we decided it would be fun to move said gnome to a neighbor's garden. No damage, we were not heathens. The next night said gnome was back in its place as if nothing had happened, so of course we moved it again, to a different neighbor's garden. And we continued to do this every time we walked home, normally at least 4 or 5 times a week, for the next 6 to 8 months or so. I hope we didn't annoy you too much, and you took it in the spirit it was meant. It always made us smile to see him back in his original place. Edit. Thank you guys and gals, the responses have made me smile so much. I'm really glad that there is still room for this sort of prank in the world. I like to think that the owner had kids or grandkids that always wanted to hear about the travels of the magical gnome. What a heartwarming prank and confession. This sounds like such a fun and silly thing to do and be a part of. I bet the garden owner was annoyed the first few times, thinking that their neighbors were attempting to take it, but soon realized the prank. Knowing it was back in its original spot every day to go on another adventure leads me to believe that they were in on it and loved the traveling gnome prank too. Story number 7. I caused my friend's parents to have to change their home phone number. I was in 7th grade in the late 90s. We had a middle school newspaper called The Press. Well, someone thought it would be a good idea to have kind of like a classified section called Happy Ads where you could spend 50 cents to leave your friends encouraging messages. I took out an ad that read, "Pokemon cards for sale, call this number." But I used the home phone number for a kid in our friend group. He ended up getting so many calls. His parents were livid and complained to the school. I guess once people figured out it was fake, they started calling even more and at all hours of the night. I never told a single person that I did it, and felt really terrible that a small prank got so out of hand. One teacher suspected that it was me, but I always denied having anything to do with it. Kids will do the silliest things not knowing how out of hand it can get. Sharing information to the public like that is considered harassment, so luckily they were just a kid at the time. I bet they would have gotten in a lot of trouble if they were ever actually caught, and they still probably would have had to change their phone number. Have any of you ever pranked someone and it got out of hand like this? Thank you for joining us for today's journey through the whispers of the web. Share your thoughts and suggestions for our next adventure. If you're not yet a part of our whispering community, click the subscribe button and click the bell for notifications to never miss out on another story. Join us next time as we uncover another enthralling tale from the web. Until our next whisper.